It's out here. It's easy to get quiet. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Bible Talk Live. I'm Bill Rhodes.
And this is Doug McKinney.
Doug, good to see you.
Good to see you.
This is the season of Halloween, so we're talking about scary stuff.
We are.
I don't think we've ever done this before, actually.
No, that's true. Steve Doyle, who's our office manager and, as you know, retired from preaching and left the church there in Illinois, Rockford, Illinois, and came to us. We started this last week, and it just came to mind with regard to the season that we're in.
Yeah.
And I know that there are experiences that the disciples had that were scary experiences for them. One thing, Bill, you could never say about the life of the disciple with Jesus, it was never boring.
No. That's for sure. I expect when they got up every day, they had no idea what was going to happen that day, who they were going to run into, where they were going to go, what was going to happen. I've never imagined him keeping a schedule with them so that they could say, well, on Tuesday we're going to be here, and on Thursday we're going to be over here. I just never imagined that. I think they were open to surprises every single day that they were with Jesus. It was always something new.
It was. And so last time when we got together, we did talk about you a little bit.
Oh, good. Good.
And it's good to have you back, by the way.
Thank
One
you.
of these days we'll get Brian back in here too and get everybody on. But we started talking about really another storm that Jesus was in, and it's the one where he calmed the storm. And what was so amazing about it was, Bill, that when Jesus got up, as you know, according to the scriptures, he says, "Peace, be still." It was so miraculous that it just happened instantaneously. It wasn't like, that the water just kind of rolled to a stop and the wind kind of quit. It was like,
boom.
It just, boom. It stopped. And the scripture said that the disciples then were more afraid of him than they were the storm.
Yeah. And for me, and I know you too, because I know you well, we always see God's hand in these things. These events are never happen chance.
Not at all.
They're planned. God is in it. This storm that arose on the Sea of Galilee that night, even those storms were common like that. They arose very quickly and died very quickly. Lake Erie's much the same way. It does that.
It is.
And
I've been on Lake Erie, by the way, when it has done that.
Well, then you have some experience.
I know what that's like.
Yeah, and so it wasn't just happen chance. They're out in the lake, and all of a sudden this happens. It happened by purpose.
Yeah.
God is showing them things as we go along, and so these are fascinating stories. Once you come to believe in Jesus, and you look at these stories and you see these not as some child story or fairy tale.
That's right.
But as real events. It is incredible to read them and think about what happened to these people on those nights.
Absolutely. And you were talking about how storms come up on Lake Erie. This has been a few years ago, but I was fishing with my uncle, several of my uncles, and we were on a boat, we're fishing. And you know how when they're biting in a certain area, and we were walleye fishing, when they're biting in a certain area, you'll see all these boats gathered around each other because everybody's catching.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of, if you didn't know anything.
This is the spot.
That's right. This is the spot. This is where they're catching fish. So we're sitting there, catching these walleye, and we're not paying attention. And all of a sudden we look up, and all the boats are gone.
Oh, my goodness.
So all the ones that were sitting around us fishing had left.
Yeah.
And then we noticed the skies, and we're like, uh-oh, we better get out of here. We just made it to shore before the storm.
Wow.
I mean, we raced into shore, and they knew, and we didn't know what was going on, and but boy, we learned a valuable lesson that day.
Yeah, and when you know what to look for, you know how to escape from it. They had no escape.
No.
I mean, first of all, God waits until they're well out into the sea, probably 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah.
And there's just no place for them to go. There's no way to escape this, and they're not in the kind of boat. It's not like modern day where you fire up an engine and take off.
That's right, like we did.
You just can't do that, and so they're stuck in it, and no way to get around it.
Yeah, this is an interesting story. So this is the second. Last time we had Jesus gets up, rebukes the wind and the waves, and the disciples were more afraid of Jesus than they were this vicious storm. And today, this morning on Bible Talk Live, this is the second time we're going to look at Jesus dealing with a storm. And this time we're going to see something even more special. We're going to see him walking on water, which is really cool. I imagine, and I don't know how many times scriptures actually record it, but I imagine he was on the water with the disciples often.
Yeah, I think so. It's an easy way to move between some places, particularly, there's so much around the Sea of Galilee. It's an easy way to move, and several of these guys had experience with boats and being out on the sea and fishing and all of that. It may have even been a relaxing time. Now this time he doesn't go with them because something else is planned here.
That's right.
But it may have been even a relaxing time. All of a sudden you're out on the sea. The sea is calming. It's away from everyone when the crowds are forming around you. I can imagine at times it was calming for him, where he actually went to sleep.
That's right, he did. That's what we experienced last time when we talked about it. They got up and said, "Lord, don't you care?" Don't you?
You're
care?
way too calm.
Well, he did care, and he does care. And
yes.
This morning on Bible Talk Live, we're going to be in Matthew chapter 14, as we've been alluding to. This is Jesus walking on the water. I'm going to read for you Matthew chapter 14, verse 22 through 32. I'll be reading from the New Living Translation of Scripture this morning. Immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake while he sent the people home. Now, just a little bit of the context. This is the feeding of the 5,000 that had just taken place. And by the way, this is one of the miracles that is recorded in all four of the Gospels. So if it's significant enough that all four of the Gospels carry
the feeding of the
5,000,
yes,
then that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal.
And so after sending them home, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble, far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on the water. When the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost!" But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage. I am here." Then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over to the side of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why do you doubt?" When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. What a story, Bill. This was definitely a scary story for the disciples.
Yeah, it was. And I think we got to go beyond scary, to be quite honest with you. I think it was terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
And I think as you experienced, if anybody's ever been in the sea or even around the sea, at a time when there are strong winds, hurricane type winds even, could be. We don't know exactly how strong they were, but it really churns up the surf and just looking at it. But being out on it had to be terrifying. I mean, when I think of scary, I think of a scary Halloween costume, or I think of, somebody knocking on your door late at night, and all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa, who is that?" Or running into a stranger on a street on a dark, rainy night. Anything like that can be a scary moment in time. But I think this was beyond that. I think it was terrifying. Yeah. And some of these guys were experienced, experienced sailors, fishermen, and just seeing what they were seeing that night. I mean, you don't know if you're going to live or die. Their faith is not really strong yet. But even if your faith is strong, you say, but God can still let me die. Everybody dies.
That's right.
And so you can begin to think like that. But yeah, I think it was a terrifying moment that they were in.
Yeah, I want to kind of prepare our minds here as we get ready to study this and kind of set the stage a bit. The Gospel of Matthew, Mark, and John help to clarify what we know about this miraculous walking on the water by Jesus. Jesus sent the disciples back across the lake, and he dismissed the crowd after the feeding of the 5,000. We learn from the Gospel of John, Bill, that the crowd actually wanted to take Jesus and make him king.
Yeah, and this may have been one of the reasons why because it seems like he's suddenly ready to leave. Now, he's had a long day. They fed the 5,000. That took serious times. He has preached to them, and so all of this was exhausting. He was tired. I'm quite sure of that. But one of the reasons he may have wanted to leave is he is the caretaker of his time right now. He wants things to happen in a certain way, and building up to that point where his life is going to be taken. And so that very reality, all these people out there, and it's very natural, by the way. I mean, they saw what he did. He fed all these people with almost nothing. Yeah. And so they had to be supremely impressed by that. They had to be saying, man, this guy is, I don't know if he's the Messiah, but he's something sent from God. There's no question about that. Who can do what he did? Yeah. And so, they are ready to move beyond just listening to him. They want to crown him king right now. And he's having none of that. This is not in his time frame yet. Yeah. And so I think that was probably the major reason why he decided that they were going to leave pretty quick.
Yeah, imagine if you could have as your leader someone who could feed everybody miraculously.
Yeah. What a gift.
Never worry about food again, right? He just feeds us all miraculously.
We rely on Kroger.
That's right. Jesus dismissed the crowd, and then he kind of slipped away into the hillside by himself to pray. Jesus saw them from the hillside. He saw them in serious trouble out on the water. And so then he came to them walking on the water. The disciples then were terrified when they saw him and thought he was a ghost. I mean, what else would you think? Nobody walks on water.
No, that's exactly right.
I mean, this is not...
Well, yeah, it's dark.
It's dark.
The waves are lapping up around you. It's probably raining. Yeah. And with that, it may be foggy, and so your visibility is not very far. And so with all of that, I can imagine that anyone would think this is some kind of apparition coming toward us.
Yeah, and I think of the times, because we lived in Port Clinton, so we lived on the lake, or we didn't live actually right on the lake, but we lived near the lake. Yeah. And so there would be times where the waves would be so high on Lake Erie that if there were boats out there, you'd see them one minute, the next minute you wouldn't.
They disappear.
They disappear. Yep. And then they come back up.
Yeah.
And then they go back down. Yeah. And then they come back up. And I can just picture this as that boat's out on the water, that they go up and down on this water, up and down. There's Jesus. What? Yeah. They're down. Yeah. And then they go back up. There he is again. Yeah. They go down. And they're terrified. That must be a ghost, and they're shouting out. I mean, it's just quite a scene.
Oh, it is quite a scene when you picture this in your mind. We've lived near water too, and when there are storms, like we live pretty close to the Gulf Coast, and actually between the Atlantic and the Gulf Coast, we lived in south of Miami at the time, and so we could see going to the right point, you could see both, and they come together, of course, down in the Keys. But it was amazing after a storm, the surf. I mean, just watching it, not let alone being in it.
Oh yeah.
But man, it created tremendous waves, and it was exactly like that. and it was just frightening standing on shore watching all of this. You couldn't imagine being out in a boat in this. And this is not a rowboat. This is not a small boat. There's at least 12 of them on the boat, right? But it's larger than that. But it's not an ocean liner either. I mean, it's a much smaller boat where they're gonna feel all of this in a great way. I mean, those ups and downs and all of that, it's going to be very, very pertinent for them.
Yeah, the disciples were terrified when they saw Jesus and they thought he was a ghost. But the Gospel of Matthew records that Peter asked Jesus, "If it is you, Lord, then command me to come out to you on the water. Peter gets out of the boat, walks on the water a short distance with Jesus, and then begins to look at the wind and the waves and starts to sink. And sinking, then he cries out to the Lord. Jesus walks Peter back to the boat. That's the way the scripture describes it. So he must have been fairly close and came over to him, walks him back to the boat. When they get into the boat, everything's calm.
Yeah.
And then Jesus asks him about his faith. Why did you doubt? The story ends with the disciples worshiping Jesus and declaring truly that you are the Son of God. And I should have read that extra part of it, but it ends with them worshiping him and saying, truly you are the Son of God.
That would do it. If nothing else did it, that would do it. I mean, it's one of the most amazing things that you ever say. What amazes me is that Peter asked him if he could come out to him. I'm just amazed by that. We love to talk about Peter's lack of faith, and his faith did show some holes in it there. But nevertheless, he was the only one out of all of them that wanted to do this and thought he could do it. And it's really kind of part of Peter's makeup.
It is.
He was so impetuous about things. I just love the guy.
Oh, amen.
I'd love to know him, and one day will. But he's so impetuous about things and so willing to do things. I remember him running to the tomb after the resurrection,
right.
and he was just that way. I mean, he would latch on very quickly, and he did that with this. Lord, tell me to come out to you, and I'll get out of this boat. And immediately you began to sink. I can imagine, because remember, this storm is still going on when he steps out. He isn't stepping out on calm water.
This is dangerous.
It's very dangerous. You could just see the water lapping up around him, and the waves hitting him, and this boat moving around him, and all of that. I mean, it just had to be a terrifying moment. So in the end, his faith lets him down a little bit.
Yep.
But I'm just really wondrous about the very fact that he got out of the boat.
I am too, and it kind of brought to mind some things that I thought I might bring up this morning on Bible Talk Live. By the way, we are glad you're with us this morning, whether you are watching the behind the scenes on YouTube and Facebook, or whether you're listening to our flagship station, 1430 AM WFOB. We say welcome. We're glad you're here listening to Bible Talk. This is a presentation from Christ Church in Bowling Green, Ohio. You can check us out online at ccbg.life. That's ccbg.life, and we would love to have you come and worship with us. We worship each Sunday morning at 10 a.m., and you can come and be a part of that. We're located at 14455 Campbell Hill Road, Bowling Green, Ohio, and we would love to have you come and be a part of that. Check us out at ccbg.life. That's ccbg.life. Bill, there were a couple things that stood out to me with regard to this, and I kind of labeled it principles of water walking. So if you're going to walk on the water like Peter, here's some principles. The first, to walk on water, you must first get out of the boat. Here's an unchangeable fact. If you want to walk on water, you got to get out of the boat. I cannot tell you for sure what the other 11 disciples were thinking when they saw Jesus.
They were thinking he was crazy.
Yeah, but this I know for sure. Peter saw an opportunity here.
He did.
He saw an opportunity to do something so much more, than the other 11 disciples. They must have thought, here goes Peter shooting his mouth off again, but let us watch and see if he really gets out of the boat, John Ortberg wrote a book all about this entitled, he said, if you want to walk on water, you got to get out of the boat. And John Ortberg makes the claim that fear is the big reason many people will not get out of the boat and walk with Jesus. But he also goes on to say that fear and growth go hand in hand together, that there is a constant reoccurrence of fear that will never go away as long as we are moving out of the areas of our lives where we are comfortable into the areas of our lives that God is calling us. Life is filled with risk, he says. It's dangerous to get out and walk on the water. If you get out of the boat, you might sink. However, if you don't get out of the boat, you'll never walk on water. And so those two things are a rub. And the truth be known that, yes, the danger is getting out of the boat, but there's also a danger of staying in the boat. I mean, those disciples in the boat were in danger too.
Oh, absolutely.
Not going for God where God has called you has its own consequences as well.
Yeah, I think it's exactly right. This mirrors life in so many ways. I love the story and the picture, and it's a wonderful picture of walking in faith or walking by faith that the New Testament talks so much about. I think most of us would have been like the 11, because they're in the boat hanging on for dear life because the storm is raging all around them. I just can't imagine the fear that they felt. But Peter decides to go out. And so he takes that step. And one of the things that I love about is that when he begins to sink, and I think this is where fear just grips him so bad that he can't think of anything else to do but die.
Scream out to the Lord.
Scream out to the Lord. And what we're told is that he screams out for the Lord to save him.
That's right.
And so even in his distress and stepping out of the boat, he realizes that his only salvation is in Jesus. And so he's going to look to Jesus for that great hope that he needs. And the hope, if he's going to survive this night, only Jesus is going to do that. And in a real sense, that's true of all of life's problems and difficulties that we run into. There are terrifying moments in people's lives when everything is at stake, when they're hurting about things and really troubled with life itself and what is going on. And the only answer for all of that is Jesus. You may momentarily get through something, but something else is coming. There's always something. There's always the next wave that is going to hit. And so I'm just so impressed with Peter. The very fact that he got out of the boat, to me, is just a marvelous act of faith. And so Jesus calls him on it. But the thing that is really funny to me, he doesn't seem to say much to the other 11 who never got out of the boat.
Right.
And Peter at least went that far. And so I think it's an amazing story of how faith works and how life works, and how difficult life can become at times, and how we need Jesus in life. If we're going to have any hope at all, he is the only answer. And that's what Peter ultimately really says, come and save me.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
No other way. I'm reminded in my own life that two things are true. One is that if you refuse to get out of the boat and walk by faith, and I'm using that in kind of a metaphorical sense here, it's important to remember here that when we talk about getting out of the boat, we're using this in symbolic terms. The phrase walking on the water has become symbolic of those doing things in life that take faith to accomplish. You're going to have to walk on the water with that one. You know, that we use that phrase in that way. Yeah. And so one of the things that I have found is that in those times when I'm unwilling to walk by faith, when I'm unwilling to get out of the boat, it becomes less likely for me the next time. It's almost as if fear grips me, and it grips me more each time. But when you start walking on the water, when you start getting out of the boat, it seems like, Bill, when you will allow faith to run your life, that it becomes easier each time. That the next time it's easier to walk by faith. The next time it's easier to walk by faith, and the opposite of that is true. Yeah, the opposite of that is true. The more you don't rely on him, the more you're not going to rely on him in the future. And as we go through these troubles in life, unlike here, where Peter could have sat in the safety of the boat. That's right. Or at least he thought it was safe. At least he thought it was safe, yes. We often don't have that opportunity to do that. I mean, this was forced upon them. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we go through troubles in life that aren't necessarily forced on us, but they're difficult and sometimes even terrifying problems in life. And so once we learn to look to him for the answers, I think you're absolutely right. It becomes easier the next time to look to him and to look to him before they come. Yeah.
to begin to see Jesus in your life at every moment, good moments, bad moments. He's always there. To think about the fact that he never leaves you. I mean, here he comes in this storm. These guys are in great peril, and we just can't overemphasize that. But here he is. He's there. And if we can see life like that no matter what happens, no matter what is going on in life, no matter what is terrifying us, no matter what the future may hold, we see him always there. Yeah. I'm telling you, it makes a difference for us as we go through things.
Yeah. I want to invite our listening audience to our harvest party. We've got that coming up this Sunday, the day of this broadcast. And so today, if you want to come be a part of that, I believe it starts at 4:30. Again, go to ccbg.life. You can check that out. I believe it starts at 4:30 for trunk or treat. So bring your kids, and there'll be cars lined up out there. They can get candy. And then I believe, Bill, they're going to have a chili cook-off and other things like that inside, and games and stuff for the kids and all of that. I think it should be a good time.
Oh, I think it'll be a good time. I love the chili cook-off. It's just fun trying different ones. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and so to me, that's one of the fun parts of this. I can't remember. It seems like we didn't do that last year. I don't remember for sure, but I know there was something I missed last year. I thought it was that. But anyway, yeah, it'll be a good time. It's a great time for kids, and you will be there. I'll be there. Steve will be there.
Yeah.
And Brian may be there. Who knows? Hey. So if you want to come, if you've never been here before, it's a great time to come, and we'll be glad to meet you.
Absolutely. Definitely. Let us know. Hey, listen to you guys on Bible Talk Live. Yes. So as we wrap up this fastest half hour on radio, we know this is going to be a two-parter. We're coming back into this story. So here's a question for our audience and for us this morning. What do we choose? Will we choose the boat like the 11 disciples did? Will we choose to stay in, or will we choose to walk on water? We said that there is this unchangeable law of nature here, that you cannot walk on water unless you're willing to get out of the boat. You have to do that. So the question remains today, Bill, I think, for the lives of people, who are they going to trust in? Are they going to trust in their own security? Are they going to trust in those things and that they build around them? Or are they going to trust in the Lord?
Yeah.
Because I believe wholeheartedly, and I think you would agree with me, that what we have that we trust in is a facade.
Yes.
It's fake.
Yes.
I don't care if it's your money in the bank. I don't care if it's an insurance company. I don't care if it's a job you've had for 25 years. You think this job can never go away. I've got news. Yes, it can.
It sure
My
can.
Dad worked for 20 years at Standard Products in Port Clinton, Ohio.
Yeah.
They just closed the doors.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you right here in Bowling Green, a young man who worked at a restaurant here in Bowling Green, showed up at work and they had moved. They were gone. Shut the place down. He had no job. They didn't tell the employees. Had no job. I remember taking another fella to the bank to cash a payroll check. Remember when we used to have to cash our checks? To cash a payroll check, there was no money. The company had no money.
Yeah.
The payroll check they couldn't cash. I mean, you think you have all this there is nothing, Bill, secure, and there is no security apart from Jesus, and I'll let you tie a bow in.
No, you're absolutely right, Doug. It just doesn't exist. It's we are fooled by this idea of security. I mean, look at 1929, the crash of the stock market. You think you got all kinds of money, and all of a sudden you're dirt poor.
That's right.
And that can happen any time in life.
By the way, if it did today, Bill, you and I know everybody's invested in the market now. It's not just, in some way, shape, or form. We're all in
those days,
there.
it was the wealthy.
That's right.
No, you're absolutely right. So it can be like that. I mean, we used to live in Weirton, West Virginia, which running through the town, all the way through the town, is Weirton Steel. I mean, the town is built around Weirton Steel. One time it incorporated thousands and thousands of workers. When we left there were hundreds. And it may be completely gone now, and the whole place is dilapidated.
Yeah.
And so, life is just like that. I like something, I'll share this with you. Adam Clark said this, but he said it was not the violence of the winds, nor the raging of the waves, and that's life.
That's it.
which endangered his life, but his littleness of faith. That's something to think about.
Yes, it is.
It wasn't those things. It was not having the proper faith in Jesus. Well, listen, we're glad you joined us. We hope you'll join us next week. We're going to continue this discussion. This is a great analogy of life. Be with us then, next time on Bible Talk Live.